Good evening. I'd like to call to order the October 12th, 2009 Lake Washington School District Board of Directors meeting, and welcome to everybody here in the audience. It's Columbus Day. So, all right, everyone is present. We have came from a work session and an executive session prior to being at the meeting, so I'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
Okay, Doug moved. Nancy second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is as written, and now our host school.
Thank you, Jackie. As you know, we have the pleasure of having a host school each month, and this month we have Redmond High School. And not only is it our largest high school in the district, and not only is it one of the highest performing in the state, but happens to be the high school where my youngest daughter is attending. And so I have a particular bias for this high school. And so I'd like to introduce Jane Todd, the principal, and associate principals Melissa and Lloyd to talk to us about the great things that Redmond High School is doing for us.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
You have to hit the button.
That button?
That button.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to crow a little bit about Redmond High School. We went through an accreditation self-study process a year ago, and as part of that process, we drafted this mission statement, which is, as you might recognize, in line with the mission and vision statements of the school district. We have it posted all over the school, and it's something that we believe that we try every day to live. There were three things that over the course of about the last 3 years we wanted to focus on in order to raise student achievement. We wanted to focus on building a healthy culture. We wanted to focus on student achievement in all of its aspects, and then preparing our students for life after high school. We surveyed, in terms of building culture, there were some aspects to that that we focused on. The first was communication. We have consistently used email as a vehicle to communicate with our parents and among ourselves. We have a Mustang memo that Lloyd does every week that goes out to staff with all of the different things that are going on at the school so staff can keep informed. We have some sort of a website for each of our staff members and have had for the last couple of years. And then we obviously use WebGrader like other schools in the district do, but we have an agreement in our school that WebGrader will be updated on a very timely basis periodically, and we use that as a communication vehicle for our parents and for our students. We have a decision-making model that we make consistent use of, and that was an issue that came up several years ago when I first joined the staff, that people in the building felt that we weren't using the decision-making model very effectively or at all. So we have made the consistent use of that. We practice responsiveness as a team and as a staff. We have tried to convert our culture from sort of the culture of no, which was how it was perceived several years ago, to a culture that focuses on problem solving and timely responsiveness, and sort of a can-do or why not culture instead of the culture of no. We model high expectations for all. We articulate what we expect. We encourage risk-taking, appropriate risk-taking. We problem solve with the student at the center, and we emphasize working together to succeed. Administration team have normed evaluations and have discussed observation protocols frequently. We engage our teachers in conversations about evidence-based instruction. And we consciously build community by reinforcing traditions and rituals that further us toward our goals, by celebrating life events, by incorporating laughter into what we do. We surveyed our staff 3 years ago in March on the 9 characteristics of effective schools, and then again this last March, and there was one time in between those two surveys where we did selected items. And so I just want to share with you a few of that data. The first bar is March of 2009, the second is March of 2007, and the green is the percent agree, the pinkish is the percent disagree. And the question here was, the school has a clear sense of purpose, and as you can see, there's quite, I think, startling improvement over 3 years. I have a clear understanding of what the school is trying to achieve, and this was a staff survey. The school's primary emphasis is improving student learning. All students are expected to achieve high standards. And this is one that we called out in November of 2007 and surveyed as well. And as you can see, there's steady improvement in the percent of agreement there. Teachers do whatever it takes to help all students meet high academic standards. Leaders advocate for effective instruction for all students. School administrators consider various viewpoints when making decisions. Teaching and learning are the focus of staff observations and evaluations. High-quality work is expected of all adults who work at the school. The second aspect of what we tried to focus on was on student achievement, and to do that, we do a lot of data collection and analysis at Redmond High School. For example, every spring we take a look at the incoming 10th graders, and I create a data report that has a minimum of 3 years of standardized testing information on it, grade history, attendance history, discipline history, and any interventions the student has had, safety nets, ELL, SPED, etc. This data is used for placement, for identification of students in need of a guidance team referral, and as early notice of students we need to monitor or discuss in staffings. We also have quite a few guidance team referrals that we've done over the past several years. And we are replicating the promotion process that we use in the special ed arena with other kinds of students. For example, our counselors meet with the junior high counselors. Our safety net teachers meet with their cohort at the junior high. We have a meeting between our assistant principals, and then SPED and ELL teachers, as well as BECA staff, meet in the promotion process. As an example, this is for special education referrals for evaluation. Last year, total number of referrals is almost 50. Of those 50 referrals, almost 30 of them qualified for special education services. If you count the number of those students who qualified for 504, in addition to qualifying for an IEP, it's over 30. And then the other 3 bars are the breakout sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And to give you some perspective here, here's a chart that shows the comparison between Redmond High School and the other 3 major high schools in the district in terms of the number of referrals. We have the first bar, the green bar, is the percent free and reduced lunch at each school. The second, and this is over a year's time last year, the second bar is the percent special education students in the school. The third, the blue, is the percent of initial evaluations last year. And as you can see, Redmond High School did quite a few more than the other 3 high schools. And then the last is the percent reeval, so students that are already in special education services and that were up for reevaluation. We were rather busy last year with guidance team. I'm going to let Melissa and Lloyd talk a little bit about the aspect of support for learning and what we do in those areas.
So at Redmond High School, we have a variety of ways that we support students that might have some academic challenges. One of those targeted assistance programs is called our Pathfinder program, and Pathfinder is a block, biology and 10th grade language arts block, where students are provided curriculum that's slightly modified, the class size is much smaller, and the pace of the curriculum is a little bit slower. And in a moment you'll see some of the data that we have on the success of our Pathfinder program. We also have an academic reading and writing essentials class, which is basically a continuation of the Pathfinder Language Arts program for juniors and seniors, so a more supportive environment, slightly slower pace curriculum. In the past couple of years, we've had a program called Conevit, which is an online program made available through a partnership with OSPI and the Mexican government. And it was a program where students could take courses in Spanish, their native language, and it was primarily history and math courses that they were taking. Currently, we're not able to offer that program because of staffing and budget constraints, but it is something that we hope to be able to continue in the future. We also have a math applications course, which is a senior level math class. It's actually a math class for seniors that are not able to take math classes, more advanced level classes. These are students that haven't passed the WASL and need support in preparing to do so. Another one of our targeted assistance options is a 2-year advanced algebra sequence. Students typically take advanced algebra over the course of 1 year, but we do have an option for them to take it over 2 years so that they can have more time to master the concepts and get more time to practice in a hands-on manner. In our ELL and SPED courses, we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years to really refine and improve our process. We now have research-based practices for curriculum and instruction, and we've got an identified curriculum for all of those classes. Teachers have also been able to observe exemplary teachers in their field at other schools and work collaboratively to design curriculum for those classes. Our ELL teacher is using the state English language development standards, which hadn't been happening over the past few years, and as a result, our Washington language proficiency scores have really increased, and we'll show you some data on that in a moment. We've also streamlined our guidance team process, as Jane mentioned a few minutes ago, so we're really able to effectively support students in need, and we are currently in compliance with all of our IEPs. We also use data to comply with child fine legislation, and we're enhancing the district's promotion process that Jane mentioned a few minutes ago so that our teachers have a lot of information ahead of time when they meet with junior high so that they're able to really have important conversations about anecdotal information that's beyond just numbers and data. With our Pathfinder program, you've got a chart here in front of you that shows their reading and writing WASL scores. So the first group of numbers is the class of 2008, 9, 10, and 11, and their 7th grade, the number of students that were proficient on the 7th grade reading WASL. They take the 10th grade reading WASL in approximately March, so that's almost a full school year, and you can see that after being in the Pathfinder Language Arts program and taking the 10th grade reading WASL, many, many more students are proficient in that area. And the same is for the 7th grade writing compared to the 10th grade writing results. We also have some data here on the progress our Hispanic students are making with regard to the reading WASL. There's a consistent pattern of improved scores. It does appear as though the scores drop between 2007 and 2008, but if you'll notice on the bottom, we have a significant increase in our number of Hispanics students qualifying for special education. So when you factor in that variable, it is still relatively consistent increase in scores. And the same is for Hispanic students and their writing WASL scores. And the same is also for special education students and their reading scores and writing scores. I mentioned a moment ago our WLPT, or the Washington Language Proficiency Test, and this chart shows the number of students that are exiting our ELL program each year. The only way they can exit is by passing the WLPT test, and you'll notice that in 2006, very few of them were able to exit the program. And we hired our new ELL teacher in 2007, and it's really clear that the work that we've done with her to articulate curriculum and use those ELD standards to kind of drive her instructions really made a big impact on their performance. And
one of the programs that we implemented last year was a sophomore staffing program, and staffing is not new. Normally we have staffings for students, individual students, and we meet with all their teachers with parents so they can get an idea of what the students, how they're progressing in their classes. What we did last year was started a sophomore core teacher staffing, and so what we did was ask all the core teachers, also invited the world language, the physical education, and the elective teachers, if they had sophomore students with concerns, to forward us information of those students' names. Once we got those names, we gave that information to those teachers so they can forward the information back to us and send them a report. Once those students were identified, the staff members got together and we discussed them in a large room, one at a time, and talked about the students, what their concerns were, what interventions had worked and what hadn't worked with, in certain classes, and then what programs that would be suggested for them in the following semester. The primary goals in that sophomore staffing program were to identify the students with concerns, was to discuss issues and possible interventions that worked and also those that didn't work, and then to discuss placement options for those students for the following semester. In that first meeting we had 18 core sophomore staff members, teachers. We had all the IEP providers at the meeting, all 4 counselors. Becca, representative, was there, and both associate principals were in that meeting.
Another way that we're supporting students is through a program that we started called RHS Help. And this is a program that is designed to provide assistance to students in need. This year we have served approximately 160 students with over $7,400 worth of expenses. Some of the things that we've assisted them with is paying sports participation fees, purchasing ASB cards, paying for class fees, purchasing homecoming tickets, bus passes, clothes, a haircut, graphing calculators, the list goes on and on. Funding for this comes from a variety of sources, including a partnership with Microsoft Volunteers and their Hunt the Wumpus program, and donations from the Redmond High School PTSA, Target Stores, Take Charge of Education program, and the Saul Haas Foundation. This is me too, sorry. We've also worked with some of our populations that have been disconnected to the school, and one of those is our Latino population. Our number of Latino students continues to increase each year, but they consistently are a demographic that struggles academically and are not as engaged in the school culture as we would hope that they would be. So several years ago, we began conversations with our Latino students to try and determine why it was that they were not as connected as we would want them to be. And through a series of roundtable discussions, Jane and I gathered information that we used to create a Latino leadership program. The program emphasis is to build Latino leadership within the school, to assist Latino students in bridging social gaps between themselves and native-born students, and to assist them in navigating the post-secondary planning process. We currently meet by grade level once a month and as a large group once a month, and those large group meetings are often college tours. We have taken them in the last couple of years to Western, Central, UW, Lake Washington Technical College, Bellevue College, and Cascadia. Another group that we have begun working with is our African American population, and in the last year and a half they have developed a Black Student Union. This group was established for primarily the same reasons that we established the Latino Leadership Group, and they focus on many of the same things that we're doing with Latino students. Representatives from both the Latino group and the Black Student Union are appointed members of our ASB leadership class, and they've already begun in the last 2 months to have a really significant positive impact on that group.
We started about a year ago working with our Redmond Learning Community, a new attendance policy, a way of tracking students. And probably the most different thing that parents and kids had to get used to is that we're now identifying the reasons for absences. There was a time when parents could just say, my son or daughter won't be coming to school today, and would mark it excused. So that has changed. We're in line with now the WAC codes for excusing absences, and that was a dynamic shift for a lot of parents because normally when they call in, it's automatically excused, and that has changed. And so it's still early in the process for us to develop data on how that's affecting our attendance, but that certainly is a change that we have promoted both to students in our student handbook and also to parents by developing a parent handbook as well that we sent home in August. Also within that policy is a family vacation component. And so once again, parents would say, we're going on vacation tomorrow, see ya. Well, it's not the case anymore. They have to fill out a process, a form 5 days in advance, let teachers know that the students will not be in school, and that has to be approved by administration. So that's a dynamic change as well. Both Melissa and I have been very proactive with excessive absences. So we have promoted very clearly on our handbook, on our website, and with parents, excessive absences. And so we're intervening with students who have unexcused absences, and they're coming in to see us. And we have a policy in place where if they get to 4 absences, they get a letter sent home. At 7, they have an administrative conference, and we confer with them, put them on an attendance contract. And then if they get to 10, then they're issued a loss of credit. And the way we've implemented the loss of credit is that students will not have an opportunity to appeal the loss of credit until the end of the semester. That way they can show that if they're serious about getting that credit, they'll get a pattern of attendance. And that's a dynamic change for them as well. So again, we'll be able to look at the data for how those changes have impacted attendance, and we think it has been very positive, but we'll have those data at a later time.
All of our staff are in collaborative teams this year. We're making use of the Wednesday leap time effectively. All but the teacher leap time is dedicated solely to that collaborative work. And the teams are developing common assessments, writing rubrics, and looking at student work as evidence of student achievement, and then accordingly making their own plans and learning together to improve their repertoire of teaching strategies so that they can affect student performance effectively. And then lastly but not least, we celebrate success at Redmond High School. We had last year 854 students took AP tests in 27 different subject areas, with 84% scoring a 3, 4, or 5. An average of 83.4% of our students over the last 5 years have enrolled in post-secondary institutions directly upon graduation. The mean SAT score for Redmond High School is approximately 40 points above the state mean for the last 5 years. The ACT composite score is 3 points above state composite, and numbers of students prepared for college-level classwork range from 16 to 26 percentage points above the state average. Last year, 495 sophomores and juniors took the PSAT at Redmond High School, which for the first time we administered on a Wednesday instead of on a Saturday. This year, we're administering it this Wednesday. And so far, as of 2:31 this afternoon, we had sold 591 tests. And we expect to be selling them up until the end of the day tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we may be begging, borrowing, stealing from other schools to get the number of tests we need. The results of last year's test will be obvious in a moment, as it is my pleasure this evening to introduce to you the National Merit Semifinalists and Commended Scholars for 2010. And I know some of them were not able to attend this evening, but if you're in the audience, would you come forward and I'll line up here and let people take a good look at you as I read your names. National Merit Semifinalists: Rachel Ballantyne, Kieran Beaton, Brianna Goller, Christina Sue, Erica John, Sam Keller, Kristen Klimisch, Rebecca Lee, Devin McMahon, Stephen Mellum, Thomas Moore, Catherine Norton, Kelly Wren. Commended Scholars: Dalton Brobach, Venkata Chavali, Bethany Danskin, Kavitha Gilroy, Margot Helm, Anna Lilia Horstman, Sabrina Shea, Chelsea Kim, Kathleen Metzger, Andre Nadelku, Isaac Reynolds, Kendall Stevens, and Alex Fashillo. Congratulations, you make us very proud. The rest of the compatriots are no doubt home doing homework. So you guys could go too now. Thank you so much. And lastly, we focus on high school and beyond. We, in the spring of 2008, RHS proposed to district that we be permitted to pilot an alternate to the Commoning project at the time, which required students to research a topic of interest and create a product or service, making a presentation of the result of their work at the end of their senior year. We proposed a defense of collection of evidence. Artifacts called from all 4 years of high school, representing students' best work and growth over time, and including items of their own choice, along with the required samples from each of the classes taken. Staff would be required to ensure consistency and quality by working collaboratively to develop common rubrics, each assessing the student's ability to think critically in diverse contents. Students would include in these portfolios, along with academic work samples, research on career fields and post-secondary education opportunities, a resume, and other artifacts related to the high school and beyond plan also required for graduation. Students practiced giving student-led conferences on this collection of evidence last spring, and once our proposal was accepted, staff began work on identifying which portfolioable artifacts would come from their classes. With the loss of advisory this year due to budget constraints, we've implemented a 10-minute homeroom 4 times a week, and staff are using that time to touch base with students as they build their portfolios. Even though this is a work in progress, we've seen a richness to the staff conversations around the rigor demonstrated by the artifacts. Parents have expressed approval and appreciation of our efforts. And although students may be the last to tell us of their excitement, we know from experience, as the juniors last year reported to us, that the defense of the portfolio in the spring will be a powerful and affirming experience for students, staff, and parents. We have brought you a handbook. Would you mind giving that we have given out to every student, and which is also online on our website, that is related to the portfolio for graduation. And we came bearing gifts as well. We invite you to use them at the next football game if you'd like to come see us play some night.
My goodness.
Thank you. And I don't know, I know we sort of ran over, but if you have questions, we'd be happy to entertain them.
Here's one.
Dr. Kimball, would you like one too? We have an extra.
Of course I'd like one. And do you have any assurances to your winning record?
No, but if bribery will do the trick, I think we've managed to get that covered.
Very nice. These are lovely.
These are fabulous.
Very lovely. Thank you.
Lest Barbara Posthumous be worried, we actually have, these were sold in the student store a long time ago. It's a surplus, and so it's not really a gift of public funds, I promise.
I would like to just comment
Trust you, Jane.
on behalf of the fact that I'm not only the superintendent but a parent at Redmond High School. I've walked that building a number of times over the past 10 years, and there has been a substantial cultural shift inside of that building since Jane's arrival and the work that she's doing with her administrative team. And it's commendable. It's outstanding work, and we're seeing great progress inside of that school. So just congratulations to not only her team, but the staff at Redmond High School who are working very, very hard on behalf of kids.
We'd like to leave you with one short thing here that Lloyd put together, and we can see some of our kids in action. Diane, would you put it back up for me?
While you're doing that, I'm going to have to say, it's going to be a while before I can take that blanket to the East Lake campus.
Redmond High School is the best school in the state. But we have the culture.
Redmond High School is the best school in the entire world because they have the best school spirit.
I love those kind of walls. Oh, they're taking the wave to a new level. Holy cow. That was great. That's all, folks.
Thank you very much, Jane and team.
Thank you, Jane, and your commended students, the number of them is just, I think, really a reflection of the quality of what goes on at the schoolhouse. So very proud to see all of those young people and hear about them. So good hard work on their part. Thank you. Okay. Next part of our agenda is our public comment time, and I've got 3 people signed up. Byron and Wendy, do you want to go first? Do you want to go, do you have some, normally we have you at the center here, but do you have something that you need to do it there?
We have a PowerPoint we'd like to show if we may, and John's getting this set up for us
Okay.
at the moment. Terrific. So we can certainly go first if we're not vying for another public commenter to step up. Let's see. All right, there we go. Well, good evening. I'm Byron Schutz. I'm a parent here in the Lake Washington School District and a resident of Redmond. Tonight I'd like to touch on a topic that affects our education funding and impacts specifically our funding here in our district. Washington State's economy reflects the state of our national economy, of course, and our tax revenue system is going faster than my slideshow. Am I going backwards or forwards, John? All right, we're back at the beginning. Sorry about that. Our tax revenue system is based primarily on sales and use tax, our B&O tax, miscellaneous fees, and various resource taxes, as well as property taxes. The vast bulk of revenue sources for the state directly reflects the consumer volume of our consumer economy, of course. As such, The amount of the general fund revenue quickly cycles with the general economy, and the amount of our new initiative on the ballot in November, I-1033, calls for us to take another indirect perspective on our state funding of education. Last spring, you, our school administrators and board, went through a thoughtful, purposeful process to determine our 2-year operating budget, including the community's priorities in the process. It's going up, so there we go. So given our local deficit to begin with in the state allocation per student, you weighed the known loss of school revenue against a thoughtful process to determine how to apply the cuts to our expenses, which reflected about $7.7 million in cuts to our district. So with your community's direct input, we chose a strategy to minimize the impact on the broadest swath of students and classrooms. And now with Initiative 1033, we need to contemplate what additional potential cuts would bring and who it would impact. 1033 purports to limit the general fund growth by limiting it to statewide rate of inflation and population growth, and return any excess general fund revenues to property owners by creating subsequent property tax bills or crediting subsequent property tax bills with a commensurate rebate. The supporters claim to be representing about 45% of the state population that owns some property. And the financial impact to projected revenue budgets is significant under this proposal because the clincher is that all future revenue growth is based upon our current recession climate, meaning our current substantially reduced budget. Most of all, 1033 usurps our local control of our communities and how we want to invest in our communities. Colorado had a similar bill, and so there is some precedent. It devastated their economy and state services. They reduced it or rescinded it in 2005. And again, with the property taxes representing only about 10% of our income, but yet 100% of the rebates going back to them, doesn't quite be a good, fair solution. There are some supporters to the initiative, and these are them. The polling with voters shows that there's about a 65% approval rate. It's our presumption that it's because they don't fully understand the ramifications of this initiative. There are a number of folks who oppose the bill, including just about all of our education organizations, as well as about 210 other folks. And I believe Wendy has a few thoughts to share with our second 3-minute run, if I may. Wendy?
The list of opposed. It's an up there one.
Okay, there we go. Okay, Initiative 1033, which is on the November 2009 ballot, is on the surface very, very appealing to voters. Its proponents say it will stop the roller coaster of boom and bust state revenues by providing sustainable growth based on inflation and population. The revenue in excess of this formula's target would be placed in a special fund and used to reduce property taxes the following year. Wow, lower taxes. Who doesn't want that? But what are the true implications of this initiative? How will it affect the ability of our state government to provide its services to citizens? When one begins to analyze the projected effects of the revenue restrictions imposed by I-1033, it is clear that our schools, health and social services, transportation, in fact, every government service will, in a few short years, be grossly underfunded. First, this initiative would take effect at a time when our state's budget has just experienced huge reductions. Revenue has continued to fall during 2009, which will require additional reductions in this biennium. This artificially low revenue stream will become the baseline for future growth. The current budget cuts have already reduced or eliminated services for some of the most vulnerable segments of our population, children of low-income families and senior citizens. Tying our state's revenue growth to the growth in population does not allow for customizing state services and programs according to the needs. Children and youth in public schools and universities use a disproportionate amount of state resources. Senior citizens are more likely to ask or obtain services and medical assistance from the government. The Office of Financial Management statistics show that from 2000 to 2008, while the overall population growth was 11.7%, those over 65 increased by 16.5%, and the college age by 18.75%. So the overall population growth does not reflect the actual demographic and the needs of that demographic. I-1033 would also use an inflation index that is computed by the United States Department of Commerce using national data. Washington State, with its economic ties to the Asian market, has historically differed from these national statistics. Using this national index would not reflect the reality of what's happening in our state. Binding the state's local government's revenue growth would reduce their ability to respond to unforeseen needs, such as an earthquake or a major health epidemic. The cost of any emergency response could only be funded through reductions in other programs. So our final request is, with the projected $5.9 billion shortfall and its impact on education and all government services, and all those implications to the education, we are asking that you, as a board, would join the others that were listed as supporters of no on I-1033 and take a position opposing this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Byron. And I believe Doug has some plan of discussion of this during his legislative time as well. Okay, and I have one more person to speak. Bob, if you would come forward, tell us who you are, and you know our 3-minute time limit, and we have a clock over here for you to let you know when it hits yellow, you need to be wrapping up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Yoder. I live on Education Hill, and my daughter goes to the high school. She's a senior. I lived here for 30 years, and I consider myself a community activist. Can I go over here and show you an overhead? No? Okay, like he did?
Yes. that'd be fine.
Okay.
Make sure that
Yeah.
doesn't,
John, if you'd manage that and let him speak,
yeah, so we
that
don't
would be
take away
good.
from his time.
so his time doesn't go ticking on him.
Yeah. Basically, the way I operate is on a principles. My number one principle that I go by is, what I'm trying to do is citizen participation, citizens being involved in the planning process. It's proven to be the most effective way to avoid mistakes and setbacks, whatever. And this is out of the Suburban Nation urban planning book. And I live and die by that principle because I think that citizen participation really does help solve problems. Then I look at your job description as board members, and I see that as a key principle under which you operate. And after spending 3 regular board meetings here and 3 work sessions here, and watching an archived regular meeting, attending 2 levy meetings, I'm here to try to empower you to be even better than you are as representatives. And one of the things I do, I'm a little bit creative. I think outside the box. Okay, this is a box that we're in this chamber. I have spent 4 years looking at the chamber at the city of Redmond. Okay, and Director Shahani and Superintendent Kimball, you've been there. I've seen you with your video. And I've also been recently to the hospital chamber. And I've noticed some key differences between the 3. And one thing I really like about this chamber is it's intimate. I don't feel like I have to look up to you, and I feel like I'm part of this process. However, as you'll note, I'm looking directly at the superintendent, yet my representatives are here and here. And I tried to figure out, why are you guys here and there? Well, I understand you're all from Kirkland and you're from Redmond. I kind of find it somewhat divisive to have the superintendent in the center of the room. You can shake your heads, that's
No,
fine.
and just curious, just saying, we're not seated this way because of where we come from. But go
Okay,
ahead.
but you see, as the public, I try to figure it out, okay? It's not seniority, it's not by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, it's by district, and districts are geographic, and this is geography here. The other district that I've been to is the hospital, has a district also, and the representative there from Redmond and Sammamish came up to me after I went to the meeting, and he introduced himself to me as his representative. I feel that the citizens should know who our representatives are, even though there is some overlap in certain areas. And if I had time, and maybe I'll come back later, but I wanted to show you this. Can I walk around with it and show it to you?
Sure, we'll give you a couple more seconds since you lost it over
Okay,
there.
thank you. Okay, this is where we are right now. The directors are in the very back of the room. Every other, I'm just using it as an example, every other chamber of the directors are off, where you can see them in front of the cameras. Every other chamber, the CEO is right next to the clerk, okay? So that when the public, which is always off to the side, is addressing, he's addressing the council members. You get a visual here, talking to our representatives, who you guys are. Whereas Chip is not my representative, he's a senior staff. He's right next to, he should be right next to the clerk, in my opinion. So my eye contact is to my representatives. And I find it jumping around with Chip there, as much as I love him and he's great, it doesn't flow, okay? Apparently, other chambers have worked it out. So I'm just offering that as a suggestion. Also, having this out of here, you could actually have your study sessions right here in the middle, okay? Instead of having them in a back room. The other chambers, other governing bodies locally, have all their meetings in the same chamber room. Their study sessions and their regular meetings. It's more open to the public. That's all. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that didn't have a chance to sign in that would like to speak? Okay. Our consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Nancy, a motion to approve, and Doug, second. Chip, would you poll the board, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ravi?
Yes.
I would like to, as we traditionally do, point out the board to tab number 5, where we've highlighted our donations for this particular meeting. We have a $30,500 donation from the Lake Washington Schools Foundation to the Lake Washington School District to support the Links Foundation, Links program, excuse me. A $1,496 donation from the Lake Washington Schools Foundation to the John Muir Elementary School to purchase assessment materials for the library, and a $4,535 donation from the Twain PTSA to Twain Elementary School to provide a tutoring stipend as well as supporting field trips for a total of $36,531. Excuse me, I'm a little tongue-tied tonight.
Okay.
I also wanted to, in your consent agenda is the value engineering report for Finn Hill Junior High. There was a question that came up around the one-story versus two-story configuration of Finn Hill Junior High School, and I just wanted to let you all know that I sent an email earlier this evening regarding the engineering report we had on that configuration for your consideration, and so that question was answered. If you have any additional questions about that particular item, I'd be happy to answer those questions.
Before we leave this, too, would you explain, because I think it's important for our community, this is a good opportunity to describe what the LINKS program is, because it's an important volunteer
Sure, absolutely.
program for the district?
Yeah, the LINKS program is, as Jackie suggested, a volunteer program for our students, and is really focused around academic challenges. So the Lunch Buddy program, which many of you are familiar with, is really about mentoring young girls and young boys who need companionship, a little bit of mentoring, where LINKS is really around academic coaching, if you will. And the grant funding for that is really to provide coordination support for academic coaching for our students. It's a program that was started in one part of our district and has grown, and it's been supported substantially by our foundation and by a number of our schools, and at this point is proving to be quite effective for a number of our students.
Great. And the foundation has done very well with raising funds through grants and other opportunities to help support that program for the district. So really, really good piece. Okay, somewhere I have an agenda. I think it's superintendent's report time.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. A couple of quick items tonight I wanted to highlight. I've been reporting to the board about the AYP process, which, as you know, AYP is the federal government mechanism for ensuring that schools are progressing adequately. And we had 2 schools that went into what we called improvement this year, which are Title I schools, which resulted in the opportunity for parents to move their children to another school should they choose to. And I wanted to report to the board that we did a review of the process this time. This process was a little bit of a surprise to us. We did have one Title I school a few years ago that went into improvement, John Muir Elementary School, and we had very few parents elect to move to other schools. And when Redmond Elementary and Einstein Elementary schools went into improvement this year, we had a substantially larger number of families, which caused quite a ripple effect inside the system. And so a few things were done. One was to evaluate how could it have been done differently and provided better results for both parents as well as staff and administration. And part of it, I think, was a communication issue, and so we put in place some processes around communication. A part of it was really understanding the scope of the problem and meeting sooner and probably more comprehensively with impacted schools, impacted principals, and also the departments inside the system. So I think the bottom line in this particular instance was I think we learned a lot. We can do better, and we're committed to doing better. And we are putting systems in place to make sure that that takes place. In terms of projecting for next year, so how the AYP system works is that you have to be in improvement for 2 years before the Title I negative consequences kick in, if you will. So we know that for next year, both Einstein and Redmond L will be in that same situation next year. We have no other schools that are Title I schools that are in improvement at this time. So a year from now, we do not anticipate anything. As a matter of fact, there's really no way physically that we can have anything different than having those 2 schools impacted. We will be communicating early with families in the spring around whether or not they desire to change schools. And that way we can make those projections early, make transportation arrangements early, any communication go early, and make staffing adjustments early rather than being a little bit caught on our heels like we were this year.
We can still have more and more schools in improvement, right? There's just the transfer thing can't kick in because they're not Title I.
Correct. So that's correct. So, and I actually have a list here of the schools that are in improvement, and it's interesting because as we were trying to get comparables, you know, other districts, the number of schools that are in improvement in other districts is remarkable. So I'll use Highline as an example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 schools are in improvement. And in our district, let me see if I can get our chart, here we go. Schools that are in improvement in elementary that are Title I schools are Einstein, Muir, and Redmond L. Other schools that are in improvement are Twain and Community School. Community school is in improvement because their parents refuse to take the WASL.
Haven't they been in since they could be in, as long as they...
Yes, they are in
WASL.
step 4 of improvement.
Yeah.
And the other schools that I mentioned are in step 1.
Their parents aren't planning to leave their school, so.
And their parents are not planning to leave their school, and I don't think that we're inclined to restructure the school, which is what's called for under step 4 if you're a Title I school. They are not a Title I school.
No.
So those are the only schools that we have that are in improvement. But yes, you're right. There are plenty of schools that can be in improvement even if they're not title schools, so there's not the consequences around school choice. Now, we care about schools that are in improvement. And according to the No Child Left Behind law, by 2014, all schools in the country are supposed to be at standard. So every school in the country will eventually be improvement, more likely than not.
Only 4 years away.
It is.
Yeah, so we anticipate with the reauthorization of ESEA, which I think is supposed to happen next year, that we will see some changes in this law.
And I'd also, for people in our viewing audience who may not have heard about what AYP means in improvement, I know if you're listening now and hear that and go, oh my goodness, the school's got major problems. Could you put that into true perspective? And we're not talking about a school that has a wide variety of issues.
Sure.
Talk about how AYP came about and the various cells that put these schools in this predicament.
Sure. Thanks, Jackie. The way that AYP progress is measured is that there are 37 cells of evaluation. So it is at standard in reading and math by grade level, by subgroup, and those subgroups are typically free and reduced lunch, ethnicity groups such as Hispanic, Asian, African American, et cetera. And so there are these 37 cells. If you do not meet the goal of achievement in any one of those cells, then your school goes into improvement. If you go 2 years in a row in any single cell, then you fall into these consequences if you're a Title I school, and you're in improvement if you're a non-Title I school, but you don't have these negative consequences. So what does that mean? Well, a school like, I'll use Redmond High School as an example, that we saw tonight, that has an 85% students going to some type of post-secondary experience and high SAT scores, and is viewed in the top 85 high schools in the country, is in improvement because their achievement levels are not what they should be for a subgroup, in this case it's special education Hispanic students, which were demonstrated on the charts you saw. And as a result, that school is considered an improvement. It does not mean that we've got a bad school. It does not mean that lots and lots of kids are learning great things in that school. And even for special education Hispanic students, it doesn't mean great things aren't happening for those kids. It means for a arbitrary figure for a subgroup of kids, they didn't meet standard. Do we care about it? Yep. Are we working on it? Yep. But does it mean it's a bad school? Absolutely not.
Thank you. I just think that it's important because I think people can get the wrong impression when you say a school's an improvement when we're talking about how it came to be, especially in our district.
Yep. Jackie, the second item in the superintendent's report tonight that I wanted to bring you was, again, an update on the Initiative 1033, which I know that Doug's going to talk about a little bit later. Just some additional data for the board to consider. Should the figures from OFM and subsequently our percentage hold true around the implications of 1033, it's projected that by 2015, because as Byron suggested the revenue loss because of the point in our economy when the set point would be made as a result of 1033. The revenue loss in the state would be $1.8 billion, and the potential loss for education, $739 million, which for Lake Washington, which is really what we care about, it would be a loss of $17.5 million from our general fund budget by 2015. That cut would be more than twice what our cut was a year ago. That cut, if we applied that cut to teaching staff to try and give us a sense of it, would mean that we would have to lay off 219 classroom teachers, and that we would have to raise classroom size by 7 students per class. So elementary class sizes would go from an average of 25 to 32 students per classroom, and secondary classrooms would go from an average of 32 to 39 students per classroom. So the implications of this are deep and drastic, and having lived in California in 1978 when Proposition 13 was passed, when California at that time was the possibly the best education system in the country, in the most economically powerful country in the world, and now California has the most abysmal education system in the country 30 years later. That's where Washington State is headed if this kind of a bill goes through. And as it is right now, Washington State is 42nd in per pupil funding, or 46th, and 42nd or 46th in class size. I keep getting the two confused, but we're in the 40s.
Yeah. Pretty bad
Pretty
statistic.
bad, and it would get substantially worse very quickly with this kind of a bill. So I wanted to provide for you the local impacts, and I know that Doug's going to talk a little bit about it under his legislative report.
Could you send that chart that you've had out to the board electronically so that everybody has the figures
You
as
bet.
people start asking us about impact?
You bet.
And that's what I was going to ask for, thanks.
So when you say 17.5 million, that's revenue shortfall relative to projections rather than actual cuts from our existing budget right now?
So that would be, no, that would be 17.5 million from our budget today. Is that right, Janine? So if we say that today the state revenue is about, it's less than, I think it's 27 billion today, and we get 41% of that, as the state revenue drops, our 41% of that drops as well. So it is not based upon projected growth, but it's rather from today, because the set point would be this year, and then the drops respectively.
Well, but then, so the bill is, or not bill, the initiative is crafted so that it's a percentage, the impact is on the state budget. So what percentage of the legislature decides how the state budget's divvied up to a large extent, and right now they've got us at 41%.
That's correct.
So they're going to work with the reduced income. They could cut us more or less.
That's correct.
But they still have to fund everything else they have to fund also, including higher ed.
That's correct.
And medical
Right.
and.
And the reason why I think that we use these assumptions, because it's absolutely true that they could fund education at 48% as opposed to 41% or whatever. And the reason why I think it's safe to use these assumptions is that in 2000, 2001, there were two major state initiatives that were passed, I-728 and I-732. And that, I believe, sent a pretty clear message to the legislature as to the priorities in the state, especially when during that time we were in a very much an anti-tax sentiment. And yet, in 2009, we still are receiving 41% of the revenues from the state. And so I'm not sure that there's any compelling reason at this point that we should assume the state legislature will do anything different until we actually see them make some major moves in that direction.
Well, there's no reason to think they could, because they can't. I mean, they're cut between rocks and rocks.
Right.
So the
And more rocks.
the
Yeah.
17.5 million is based on the projected, like what the what would happen to the state's revenue today if this?
No, what would happen if the initiative passes, the reduction in the amount available to the state to base a budget on.
Yes.
Right, but that's on today's budget or on the 2015 budget? Sorry, what?
So the way that we receive the assumptions from OFM is that there would be progressive loss, and that progressive loss, if we extrapolate that times our normal percentage of the budget, would be extrapolated loss from the for education. Now, I think the question you're asking is, how do they come up with extrapolated loss based upon how the bill's written? Let me dig deeper into that, and I will bring that, I will get that to you in the board brief, and I'll also bring that to the next board meeting, should you guys consider to do some type of action on this.
Okay, do we also have, maybe Byron can send us the PowerPoint that
Sure.
he
Yep.
had?
I'll get that in the
Okay.
board brief this week as well.
Okay.
And so for if the board wants to do anything, sorry, I just want to wrap this up. I don't want to discuss it again, so let's put this to bed. If we want to do something, we have to have a public comment session for pro and con. We would do that at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, we could make a board recommendation, pro or con, in public. Right? We could vote on a resolution supporting a particular vote.
Yes, so I think the way that it works is that I'm recommending a resolution. I will be sending you a sample resolution, and then you can receive public comment, pro and con. You need to provide opportunity for both. And then you can either approve the resolution or you can deny the resolution. And correct.
So towards that end, I'd encourage the pros and cons. I'd like to see more about the derivation of the numbers in terms of loss. The language of the relatively simplistic statement is limiting growth. It's not phrased as loss, and I need to be able to understand why long-term it impacts our budget. So, thanks.
Brian's just going, yes.
Yes, because
He can do that.
Yeah,
Byron can pull that
I'm wondering if
together.
it's about the inflation.
Byron.
I mean, salary inflation is different than,
Right.
CPI inflation, right? So,
Just out of curiosity, and Byron, I'm going to call on you because I know you've done a lot of research on this. Is there a good spot to go to actually look more clearly at what this initiative is saying, other than reading it as its full 41 pages?
Byron, would you mind coming to the mic just so that everybody can hear? And is there one that is a factual analysis rather than a
Or is someone-
propaganda-driven?
Easy answer, no, I don't know.
Okay.
The voter pamphlet just came out, and that's got more information than I've seen anywhere online to
Okay.
date. But I don't think
Audio.
it's on their website.
There's
That
an
gives
audio
analysis.
voters pamphlet, so I'm going to see what that one says.
So a voter's pamphlet is one place. Oh, here comes Wendy. She's got something.
But I can tell you, because I've watched all the local news shows about this, and I don't think we really understand. I mean, we can, if you want just a general idea of what's going to happen, yes, but to really understand it, I'm not sure that the media's even gotten their hands around it.
I wonder if it'll end up in court like some of the
In
others.
light of that, what I'd like to suggest is that I get actually a legal analysis of this bill for you.
That would be
Good.
And I'll get that to you, send it in board briefs, because I do not want us as a system or you as a board to be reacting to a propaganda, whether it's news media, one side or the other. So let me get a legal analysis for
WASDA
you.
do that, or are we going to have to pay for it?
I don't know, but I will track one down. I'll check with WASA and WASDA first.
And
and-
WASA might have.
Yeah, so let me get that for you.
Yeah, WASA may have one for it.
Yeah, I don't know what they created for when the board took it.
Right. Okay.
And Doug,
Did you
you
want
want to
me
just
to-
kind of follow
Yeah,
on
well,
that, and we'll
What I'd
go
like
from-
to talk about two things. Real briefly, I want to talk about the WASDA Legislative Assembly, because, of course, the last meeting, we didn't have a chance to talk about legislative stuff. And as some of you know, we met last month in Vancouver, Washington. There was the main focus of the discussion there were on a couple items. One was the Legislative Assembly agreed that we were opposed to a common core of academic standards that might be mandated by the U.S. Department of Education.
Well, we are?
No, there's a concern that that could come about.
What? There's a concern that we may
be mandated by the U.S. Department of Education to adopt a core, common core of academic standards. So that's one thing that we want to make sure that we're
I want to see what they
out
come
front on.
out with first before I worry about it.
But at
And
the
it
same
is
time, our approach is, and Washington State has already done this with 47 other states. We're actually in the process, as we speak, of developing a set of core academic standards for language arts and math.
Is that what you're talking about? I thought that's what we're talking about. I didn't think Department of Ed was coming out with their own.
Well, there's a concern that that could happen. So that was one of the first things that we discussed.
This is bad, why?
No, I think we're talking apples and oranges
Oh, okay.
here, because
I'm
the
in
thing
favor
that
of standards.
I think we're all
I
waiting
think it's
for
a
is
matter
that joint
of
effort.
whose standards. In other words,
Yeah,
are we
but
going to be forced to live with something that's mandated by Washington, D.C., or would we rather develop a set of core academic standards that is developed basically from the
I know.
from the
I
grassroots?
I'm sorry. In the modern world, Washington State is not a different state than California as far as what kids need to know to get a good job.
I don't think Department of Ed is even trying to come up with them. I think they're leaving it for this
Well,
multi-state
that-
effort that we are
that's-
part of.
That's what Italy. That's what I think a lot of people in the U.S. Department of Education would like us to believe. But I think there's a concern
Oh, great.
that
I'm actually
on the
not
part
surprised.
I mean, if they
from
want to,
NSBA, our national association, down to the different states, that we may end up I think all I have to do is point back to No Child Left Behind. Federal government can and often and frequently does mandate standards. And so that was one of the major topics of discussion at the Assembly.
Chip looks like he's going to be able to make comments either now or in the future on this.
Yes.
Good. Go ahead. Sorry, Doug. I'm trying to figure
Anyway,
out what Waz is talking about.
And one of the things that's driving the concern is that as the federal government often does, and I'll use an example, they've done it in education, they do it quite oftenly in the way they grant Department of Transportation money, is that if you want the money, you've got to set uniform speed limits, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, we know that 7% that hangs over our head.
So that's a major concern, and we see, in a way, kind of the carrot and stick approach with the way that they're allocating $4 billion in Race to the Top education funding. And they are basically giving advantage to states that actually have come along with put in this kind of a Common Core academic standard together. So that was the major topic of discussion, as was the how we're implementing House Bill 2261, which is the new definition of basic education. And so we heard reports from the Superintendent of Public Instruction and from the State School Board about how that's progressing. A few other odds and ends that we discussed were there have been attempts to make us do more provide more transparency in terms of the Open Meetings Act, and that's something that we continue to resist in terms of the appropriateness of sharing real estate information and legal advice. There's still pressure from the Secretary of State and some other people at the state level for us to provide more openness in within the context of the Open Meetings Act, and we see some good reasons to push back on that, because I think for obvious reasons, if real estate transactions or potential real estate transactions had to be disclosed, that would have the effect of raising the cost of those transactions. And I don't have to even talk about the concerns that would be involved in having to openly discuss legal advice that was provided by legal counsel. And finally, this last weekend, we ranked the various issues that were discussed in the Assembly. And as you might imagine, unfunded mandates became the number one issue. And then 2 and 3 really involved implementation of basic education financing. So let's go back to Initiative 1033. I think Dr. Kimball said it pretty succinctly when he said the potential of 1033 really presents us with deep and drastic cuts, and probably to the extent, probably greater than we've ever had to face before. And so I think the question is, do we want to provide some time in the next meeting, as the superintendent recommended, to discuss whether we should take a stand on Initiative 1033 or not, and then I think orchestrate some time so that the public hearing could take place, and then that we could actually consider a resolution.
That's fine with me.
Okay, Nancy's okay with that, having a resolution put on for 1033? Chris, Ravi, Doug? Me? Yes, so,
Are we allowed to place limits on how much time can be spent on pro and con? Okay, let's make this a defined amount of time. That's all I would ask.
Okay, I doubt that
yeah.
there's going to be hours worth
Yeah,
of testimony.
I think that an equal amount of time for each.
Yes.
And can we say that it's
You
15 minutes?
You can put a limit on it,
And
as long as it's the same.
I think what we'll do is look and see what the sign-in sheet looks, look at the sign-in sheets for how many people come, and then we can determine how much time should be allotted to allow.
Each person, but yeah, look at the agenda, because some of us can't afford late meetings anymore.
Broadly speaking, I don't think we should need more than 10 minutes pro and 10 minutes con.
It's a short one, but I think we can't say that until we see who's here and how many people sign up.
Wait a minute, why not?
Because if we have 20 people in the audience that are
But we
pro
said
and
10
20
minutes for
con, we
pro,
don't,
10 minutes for con.
I'm not sure you get 20 people up and down in 10 minutes.
Do we have to let everybody speak who shows up for pro? Or do we get to
That
tell
wants
them
to speak?
how long pro gets to talk? I would much prefer to control this from our end.
Okay. We've never had a huge number
I know,
come.
I know,
So
but-
I'm out of my element, so let's ask Janine.
My recollection of the way the law reads is that you have to provide equal time. We can seek, counsel on that to see if limiting it, as long as I think we make a reasonable attempt to provide a reasonable amount of time, is my understanding, but I would want to double check on that.
Yeah, I would too, because I want to make sure that if we had, for instance, as I said, we've not ever had, but were we to have a room full, then how much of that do we have to accommodate to do due diligence to a public hearing?
Well, and that's again one of the double-edged swords of having a public hearing.
Because I have a feeling if you get a room full and you don't allow a fair amount of speaking, we will hear about that in another
Well, since
venue.
it's all in law that dictates
Yeah.
how we do this, we'll just have to follow the law.
Yeah, so if you could
We can send the
check on that.
RCW and put it RCW, and then we can double check on any kind of limitations.
Yep.
Okay,
I'd
great.
also suggest that since this is a public hearing, that the legal analysis that I provide to you in board briefs, that I present that before the public hearing, just so that, because there's so much misinformation
I
out
think
there
that
right
would,
now.
I think that would be very
Yeah.
appropriate.
I think that's
Because we'll have the resolution read, and then you can do that, and we'll have the public hearing, and close the public hearing, and then have board discussion and approval.
I guess the reason I was bringing all this up is that after we have resolution read, Schiff's comment, 10 minutes pro, 10 minutes to con, that's half an hour of our time that we don't get back to do other business.
Right.
Right.
I don't want this to take the whole evening.
Yeah, and it probably, it's
actually
usually a
agree
short
with Chip,
agenda on
with
that.
Chris.
It's usually a short agenda, that meeting, because it's the short meeting, so. But I think we have to do what's right by law, and certainly by the number of people that show up.
I will also follow up on the national standard debate. I'll bring that in a superintendent's report here in the next month or two so that we can get everyone up to speed on that.
Okay, anything else, Doug?
Just real quickly, there was quite a bit of discussion, this is going back to the Legislative Assembly, there was quite a bit of discussion about the ability of some districts to raise local levies. And of course, this brought down really the most spirited discussion in the whole group, because we're, as 295 districts, we're all over the map. There's some districts, a number of districts in eastern Washington that don't have levies at all, that don't have local levies, and feel that they can't even raise them. Then there are some districts, prominently Vashon Island and I think it was San Juan Island, that are kind of locked into the old, some arcane formula, where they really are hemmed in by both their inability of raising their local levy, and then the way that the state funding formula is applied. So they really don't have, as bad as we perceive ourselves, we're not as hemmed in as Vashon feels that they are. And so anyway, we didn't receive much sympathy for that, even though we did have a couple of votes, but they were pretty lopsided. And then there was one interesting vote that actually was one of the first times we used the weighted vote to our advantage, because we have an ability to call for a weighted vote based on our population. And some of the Yakima Valley districts had a measure that would have removed the WASL, or whatever replaces the WASL, as a graduation requirement. And it would only be an endorsement on the high school diploma. And that actually got through the legislative committee as a recommendation, because the small districts were controlling the meeting that day. But I'm pleased to report that the full body, under the weighted vote provision, buried it.
Good.
So,
Good to hear.
It's going to get watered down enough, so it's not going to matter anyway.
Okay, any future agenda items that we need to put on the list? Any debriefing that we need from anyone? Any board member comments that we need? And then just a reminder that there are public meetings occurring for bond and levy input, as well as online, and board members will be attending those as they can. Upcoming meetings that we have this Wednesday, October 14th at 5, our Lake Washington Alliance for School Funding Group will be meeting, and then the public meeting is after that. And then our next board meeting is October 26th at 5:30 p.m. here in this boardroom, and it's our shorter meeting night.
And those levy input meetings, Jackie, are, we have Tuesday night and Wednesday night. Let me check here. I would like to just say locations for anybody that might still be watching here. So excuse me.
Tuesday is Juanita High School.
So Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at Juanita High School. On Wednesday, we have a 5 3 p.m. Say that again, Janine, is that right? I did it wrong. Okay, Tuesday, we have a, here we go,
5 p.m.
Tuesday at 3 p.m. at Kamiakin. We have another one Tuesday at 7 p.m. at Juanita High School, and Wednesday at 7 p.m. at Lake Washington High School. Those are our levy input meetings, and we also have the opportunity to do that on the web for those that are interested. Catherine, do we have the videos posted to the web at this point? Okay, so tomorrow morning, a video set will be on the web as well. And then lastly, just a reminder that next board meeting, we'll have the board meeting at 5:30, and we will not have a work session on October 26th.
Correct. Okay, I will entertain now a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Nancy moved, Chris second. All those in favor say aye, please. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.